All right. Well, this day in metal, we have Mr. Ason Johnson with LA Guns here with us today. Thank you, man. Thank you for doing an interview with us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, right on. Well, you were very cordial. You definitely hooked it up and worked it out. And then when we first started going to hook it up, you were out on the road with LA Guns. Tell me a little bit about that little tour.
Yeah, we've been out celebrating, supporting the new record. It's been a long day, and yeah, we did about 3 or 4 weeks already this summer, and just a little interlude here. Everybody got to go home for a hot minute, and then we go back out in about 10 days. We get some dates with Buck Cherry, and just going through sort of Central America, if you will, Idaho and North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, working our way down to Texas, domestic dates. And that wraps up with the Rocklahoma pre-party at the end of the month, and then some intermittent dates throughout the rest of the year. And then everybody kind of goes off and does their own stuff, and that's kind of it. But yeah, just out pounding the pavements, supporting the new record.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, it's been a long stint because I remember I saw you guys like right at the beginning of the year. I think January is when you guys came through Phoenix, right when the album came out. So you guys have been out for a hot minute out supporting it and playing.
Yeah, we're doing weekends and a couple of weeks at a time and everything. So we've been putting out a record every 18 months or so consistently since Phil and Tracy got back together. So just trying to keep the machine rolling and everybody happy.
Gotcha. Yeah, but what I was going to say too, Black Diamonds is an amazing album. You guys really, really brought it on it, and you guys did well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely like the band's homage. I feel like there's definitely the Zeppelin influence all over the record. It's very much a love letter to that era, and meets the usual sort of LA Guns fanfare. But it's cool, man. It's cool to see the reaction from everybody on the record.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it was, I mean, very, very different from Checkered Past going
Yeah.
into Black Diamonds. Because I mean, Checkered Past was awesome. I dug that album as well, but just that transition and then Black Diamonds, I mean, it's just diverse and like you said, just the different sounds, and you could tell Tracy Guns really put the time in trying to get the tones perfect and doing
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So they
Yeah.
really came through. And then obviously your influence on the record, and what I really noticed with this album opposed to Checkered Past is it really, you could tell that you guys were really melding as a band and really kind of coming together, and you can hear it in the songwriting and the music. And so yeah, I mean, definitely something you should be proud of.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, Checkered Past we did really like during the lockdown era of 20 predominantly. So there was at least a lot of the writing was done then. So a lot of it was done piecemealed and remotely, as was all of the most recent records, but a little bit more so just because of the sort of pandemic and everything like that. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's definitely, you know, despite what the internet might want to say, I mean, it is Tracy and Phil, but it's definitely a band, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you can definitely tell, and it's and you can just tell the different progression in the music. You guys are definitely maturing and it's kind of changing. So it's cool, man. You guys definitely, it was nice to hear the new stuff live too. It was when I first heard the album, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to hear it live, and definitely didn't disappoint as well.
thanks, Chris. Yeah, we've been doing 2 or 3 new ones a night just to kind of sprinkle them in amongst the classic stuff and everything.
So good response from the fans and
Yeah,
old school LA Guns
for the
fans.
most part, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody at this point is you know alarmed if we play 2 songs off the record we're supporting mixed in amongst the sort of classic material, and let's just say some of the obligatory stuff. And then we're playing Speed from Missing Piece, which I imagine will always be in the band's set list. And then we're opening with Cannonball from Checkered Past, which just seems to be a fun, sort of strong, quick banger punk rock kind of opener. And then it's like right into, choose your own adventure as far as the old stuff, Over the Edge and Electric Gypsy and Ballad of Jane. And sometimes we'll do a little medley of oh shoot, Crystallize, and a couple other stuff from the sort of classic era of the band. But the thing is also the you know people I think understand that in a band that's in its let's say 35 plus years in obviously different incarnations, but from let's say the first debut album to now, there's so many songs and material to choose from. So it's kind of hard to pick and choose. It's like, what's the old joke, like picking your favorite kids and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes we'll pull stuff out of like just random, like Killing Machine, or God, of course I can't remember. I only know, I'm like, I know how to play them. I don't know what they're called. Something off of a couple songs off Waking the Dead, like Hellraiser's Ball, or there's another really great sort of arpeggiated riff song on that record. Of course, the name escapes me, but just random stuff. So try to keep it interesting. Can't just be No Mercy over and over and over again. Everybody's already
Yeah.
seen that. I feel like, so try to keep everybody on their toes.
Well, and you kind of feel like LA Gun sets itself apart from the other bands in the genre still, doing it. And no disrespect to any of those bands, but definitely you guys are definitely more involved with new music and doing more new stuff, that it seems like it's more inviting, and people are, lumping it in with the old school stuff as well, just because you guys are constantly doing new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think having been a member of several legacy bands over the years, in a few different genres, I understand on both sides of the coin what it's like to be in the audience and be like, I only want the first two albums, screw you guys, and then also to be the band that's like, hey, we've got a new album and we'd like to play some of that. So it's got to be sort of a happy balance, and trying to find that sort of that medium area is definitely crucial, because you don't want to burn out your audience on 70% new stuff. I think we do a good mix of probably 65 to 75% nightly. Of course, I just had a stack of LA Gun set lists right here until like 2 days ago, but yeah, I mean, we're playing, let's say, 15 songs a night and 3 or 4 new ones. So, 2/3 of the set's classic material. I think that's fair.
Yeah, heck yeah. No, and it keeps it fresh. Well, and I'm sure for you guys as musicians too, playing the same, songs over and over again from the old genre, or even not even yourself, even Tracy and them, I'm sure at some point has to get a little bit arduous, and it's kind of fun doing some of the newer stuff.
Yeah, it just kind of keeps it a little more fresh and interesting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I've only been in the band for, let's say, 5 years, and there's some of the songs I'm like, oh yeah, let's play something else, and I say that in contrast to, say, Tracy or Phil or whoever that maybe, or any project or band or what have you. We're like,
Yeah.
man, I've been playing the song since 1980, fill in the blank, and I'm just over it. But you have to. It's like if we got up there and didn't play Never Enough and Electric Gypsy, people would be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
So, again, it's finding that balance between what suits all parties, and then also it would suck. I mean, I've been in bands where it's like, well, we haven't put out an album in 17 years. It's like, well, why?
Mhm.
So even if nobody bought it or wants to hear it, or obviously, I think getting up there and playing, like when I go see Danzig and he plays, let's say the first album cover to cover, and then plays 2 new songs and then 2 other familiar songs. I'm like, yeah, of course you're going to throw in a new song or 2 or whatever, unless you're, let's say, doing some sort of, if we were doing like Cocked and Loaded cover to cover, we might not have time for something like that. But even when we did the Cocked and Loaded live thing, we still stuck Speed in there just to kind of make a point.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's the cool part. Yeah, that's the cool part. So you were saying touring. So just random question: what's the best part of touring? What's your favorite part of being on tour?
Oh shit. Well, I mean, my favorite part of touring is, aside from the 75 minutes on stage, because I feel like that's sort of like the obvious answer, is just getting to outside the obvious, getting to see my friends in different cities and countries sometimes, or locations where maybe my high school friend got married and now lives in New Mexico, or an old roommate lives in New York, or my old bandmates in New Orleans, or whatever. So you're rolling through these places and you're like, well, shit, if I just stayed home, I would never see these people. And, you know, you get that sort of every 6 to 12 month, 18-month cycle of like, okay, cool. It was great to see you, have lunch, catch up, you know, how's the baby, how's the wife, how's the band, whatever. And then duck out and okay, cool. We'll be back here in 9 months. I'll see you then, you know. That's
Yeah.
probably that's probably it. Some of the ones that people wouldn't expect are the fact that I don't have to fucking drive. I say that all the time. I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I don't have to drive for any of this. It's nice to take a break from being an
Right, right.
adult and then hitting record
So
stores, stuff like that.
yeah, hell yeah. So with that being said, so next part of the question would be, what's the worst part? What's the part where you're like, man, like if I didn't have this part of it, this would be a great experience.
Well, I mean, it's again, it's like this obvious thing. It's like you're not paying me to tour, you're paying me to travel and to be
Yeah,
away from my dogs and my home and my, you know, my comfort zone and all these sort of things. So that's kind of the most obvious aspect of it where, you know, I love the 90 minutes or what have you on stage. It's really it's the other 22 plus hours out of the day where you're sitting, you know, I mean, unless most people can tell you whatever, you know, like they can pretend, but like if you've never slept in a bunk on a tour bus or a bandwagon or in the back seat of a fucking Econoline or, you know, worse, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you did it what 3 days with your buddies in high school? Cool. We'll try doing it for 8 weeks at a time. You
yeah,
know, it's like you know, it can take a little bit out of you physically, mentally, all that stuff. I mean, you're rolling down the highway in a literally like the equivalent of a coffin, just going like, hope the driver's okay up there, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
Well, so
that
which
part.
bunk do you pick? Do you take top, middle, or bottom? Which one's your
I'm
go-to?
I'm usually the bottom guy because
Really?
yeah, I don't like the sway of being high up. I've learned over the
Uh,
years. Yeah, that's my preference is usually bottom shelf somewhere.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. No, I've watched this YouTube channel all the time. And so it's a tour. Also, the bands let you tour their buses and they talk about it. So that's why I was always curious because every person has their different section. It's like, oh, I got to be in the middle or I got to be here. But I never thought about the swaying for the top. I could see where, because I was always like, I could never do the bottom one. I just couldn't
Yeah,
do it. But then when you said that, I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
I like it because there's less sway. Of course, you're getting a little more of the you know lack thereof suspension, but you know you do it long enough. I always pick up like a roll of camping foam, and then
Uh-huh.
also there's way more privacy because nobody's like walking around looking at the bottom 2 feet. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the middle or the up, you know,
Uh-huh.
somebody everyone's walking by, you're constantly getting this like you know, hey, what are you doing in there? You counting money? What do you
Yeah.
got? What are you eating? So a lot of that.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then, so my next question would be, when you are on the road and you guys go into Walmart, what's your go-to? What's the first thing you go to when you go into a Walmart?
Anything that's like utilitarian, like I'm a sucker for like what are they called? Utility hooks or whatever, you know, like I just
Gotcha.
like little stuff to put stuff up because I'm way too OCD to just like like my stage manager just throws all his shit in his bunk and I'll find it later. I'm like, no, dude,
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
need a
like you.
thing for
Yeah.
my glasses and like a little thing for my wallet and my vitamins and my here's a hook for my sweatbands and a bag for the picks. Anything that's like organizational stuff mostly.
Yeah, yeah, that's hilarious. That's awesome. That's good stuff. I would totally agree. I am in the same realm. I would freak out if I didn't have it all organized. So,
Yeah.
the other thing I was going to ask, so the other part of it, I also learned. I was doing my homework today, and I was learning about some of the other stuff you did in your voiceover work. I found out, which was I found super interesting. I thought it was really cool, man.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I've been dabbling in that world, God, for probably like 12 plus years. I've done some stuff for Netflix. I've done some stuff for Shudder, the horror streaming platform. And then 90% of the stuff, my output is just like nepotism, like, hey, I love LA Guns and I heard you do voiceover. I've got a dentist business that's doing a commercial. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
cool. Here's my rate.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Something I do.
Sounds like a good side hustle, if nothing else, you know?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it doesn't require me to do much. I do most of it from. I have a walk-in closet down. I'm upstairs right now, but I have a walk-in closet downstairs. Do it with my cup of coffee and my pajamas. You know, it's pretty easy.
Heck yeah, can't beat that.
Great.
That's the best.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure.
So, do you have anything coming out soon or anything?
Voice related?
Yeah, with Netflix or anything like that, or
Oh
anything where you,
no,
you
no, I
know,
haven't done anything. The last thing I did that was of note was a bunch of stuff for a Christmas special on Shutter in December. So I had I think I contributed 8 different voice roles to their Joe Bob Briggs. What was it? I can't remember what the special was called, but it was their Christmas fundraising special. I actually also did one piece of music for that as well. Um, and I think since then, that's December. What's this, August? I think I've only done 2 or 3 other things that were all really low key
Gotcha.
since then. Nothing of note, although I did just get an email from an agent looking to talk because I don't have everything's just me. I don't have anybody representing me, which is probably why I'm not booking more or working more. So if anybody out there's first voice work, but yeah, that's it. Just mostly I've been spending most of my time prepping for this lengthy summer tour we just are kind of in the middle of, and then I've also been writing some pieces of music for composition stuff for like television and stuff like that, cues, and
Gotcha.
a lot of electronic based music, lacking of guitar, anything. So it's nice. There's actually 2 Les Pauls behind me. I've been tracking stuff all day. I can't remember if we were talking about that before we started this or during, but I'm also cranking out demos for 2 projects simultaneously. So I'm just trying to keep my hands busy all the time.
Yeah, no, let's get into it because yeah, no, I was going to ask you what you got going. Obviously, you said the rest of the year with some LA Guns tour dates, but then also what do you got going besides LA Guns?
Um, well, unfortunately, I can't talk about any of it. Um, what can I say? Doing a death rock kind of all-star band with some people from some bands that
Heck
you've
yeah,
probably heard of that I'm not supposed to talk about. And so like trying to write for that and slowly chip away at maybe a couple pieces of music for the upcoming LA Guns record. We'll just keep cranking them out. There's no reason not to. And what else? I'm sure there's other stuff. I have another project with some friends that I'm not going to disclose yet, but it's a bunch of guys like myself, like hired gun kind of guys that are doing sort of more contemporary kind of music that may come to fruition or may not. I mean, just busy, a lot of busy work. I mean, most of my day when I'm not touring is I have 3 large dogs, so a lot of my day is occupied by them. That's usually why I'm late to things.
yeah,
Is
yeah, yeah.
somebody needs something. I've been doing just as much outreach and networking stuff for the last few years, but more recently been doing some transporting as well. So there'll be different rescue groups here in Tennessee that might need an animal taken from one place to another. So I transported 2 dogs this week. Just busy work,
Yeah,
and writing, trying to write as much as possible and get my little cooties on everybody's albums, I guess, really.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's cool, and that's really cool with the dog stuff. That's super cool, man. Good for you. And I was going to ask about that too, the dog rescue stuff. So, are you getting pretty locked in Nashville as well?
Yeah, well, I'm coming up on 3 years here. November will be 3 years for me, and I've been coming out here for work for 18 years, 15, 18 years, and every time I come through town, that was a joke. Because every time I come to town, I'd be like, "What are you doing here, Chris?" You'd be like, "Oh, I moved here," and so it just stacked up to where I was like, "Man, half the people I'm friends with that I don't find annoying live in Nashville." And just cost of living. So I made the move during the pandemic and got a house out here and um, been able to do just a little bit more hands-on stuff. Um, like got involved with there's a wildlife rehab center here. I ended up with a turtle in my care for a minute and just trying to do, my own version of the antithesis of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of thing, where it's more like, you know, animals and vinyls and rock and
Yeah,
roll.
yeah.
I don't know, just a little
No, no.
more down, little more um, low key, I guess. Like I was,
Yeah, no. Real life kind of stuff. No, I get it, man. Dogs are awesome. We got a
yeah.
couple
I
dogs
mean,
ourselves. And
of course, I spent my whole 20s, you know, sort of networking through Los Angeles and Hollywood, and you know, put my time in at the Rainbow and all these things. And now it's like I'm in that, you know, I'm 40, and I'm like, okay, I just want to do dog rescue and write music and hang out with my friends, and not, I call it band guy. Like I'm like, I don't want to be band guy like 24/7, 365. Like there's a time and a place for that. And it's very sort of compartmentalized, where the rest of the time I'm like, okay, this week, you know, it's just going to be the gym and dog stuff. And, you know, I'm going to work on these keyboard patches or some nonsense. So a
yeah, yeah.
little
Well,
anticlimactic at
well, and
times.
it's good. It's good for your mental health too, man. I mean, if anything, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh, completely, completely. And then I have a Patreon that keeps me really busy, so I focus on that a lot of the time too. So it's been really great for the last couple of years, just that support system, and having, you know, as opposed to just basic social media where you could be like, hey, I put out an album, and people are like, you suck. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's like, hey, I put out an album, and these people are like, we love what you're doing. What else you got? You know, and so it's a little more positive, uh, you know, constructive uh, in that direction versus just the usual like post millennium. You know, now it's like social media and everything's free, and everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's, you know, upset about something. So it's nice to just have something that's sort of compartmentalized, that's like basically just a really glorified sort of fan club. Sounds really derogatory, but I don't know what else to call it. It's just a great
Yeah.
platform with people that want to be there versus just the open internet, which I've tried to avoid the last few years.
Well, and it's cool. And as a fan too, it's kind of, and that part's nice too with technology and everything now, is that you're able to connect with, you know, with different people now
Oh,
without having
absolutely.
to, you know, go through, you know, the social media aspects and actually, you know, truly connect with the musician.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been really a lifesaver. And so, I mean, of course, there's always, you know, everybody's a critic and everything. So I'm used to that, but it's nice to just, you know, like I don't have a Facebook and all that stuff. Like I'm barely on any of that stuff. And what little presence I do have is usually just like, here's a tour, here's the album, and then trying to network or what have you, maybe rescue animals. And then beyond that, I'm sort of not really there. I think a lot of people get too wrapped up in that's, you know, checking Twitter is their like entire day. And I get it because it's very addictive. But to me, it's like I need space from all that. So
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the mental health stuff once again. I mean, it's just not healthy to sit there and do that all day long either.
1,000%, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And it's like anything, like it's double-edged sword. Like a lot of it's, there's so many great resources. I've made so many friends and worked with people and fans and networking and all these great things, but then there's so many, you know, you can't. I had a meeting with some people today on a Zoom call about one of these mystery projects, and we were talking about how no matter what you do, everybody's going to pick it apart and critique you, and, you know, fucking bring back the other guy, and it's like, you
Yeah.
know, okay.
Yeah. But it's good though, man. And you got nothing to worry about. You're the man. So
I wouldn't go that far, but
yeah.
I'm, you know, man, I'm just chugging along. I just, you know, for me, a lot of this across the board is like, you know, trying to be exemplary of like what, you know, there's so many people out there proving like what not to do, you know, and I'm not here to sit on a high horse or anything, but like, man, there's so many, just even the rescue aspect or anything like that. There's so many people where it's like you have these platforms with, you know, tens or hundreds or millions of thousands of followers or whatever, and they're like, everything's like, look at me. And it gets a little tired. Like, you know, I'm not going to name names, but there's so many people out there that could do just, and like, man, if Nikki Six wore a shirt that said like, you know, save a goldfish, I'd be like, wow, that's pretty cool, but he's not going to do that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Or you know, if whoever was like, yeah, it's like, I guys I do admire, like my buddy Doyle from the Misfits, like he's very outspoken about his advocacy as a vegan. I think that's amazing because you get all these kids that are like, who hasn't heard of the fucking Misfits, and then he's going like, this is what I'm into. If you want to get on board with that, that's cool. I have a cause. So, I wish more people, I don't care what it is. My buddy Chris, who plays for Bush, he's got a thing. He's really into horses, being equestrian stuff. I think more people should wear that stuff on their sleeve. And again, I'm not going to get on my soapbox, and then here I go. But I wish more people in any, whether actors or writers or musicians, I wish more people would do that with social media. I mean, you've got such a platform. Why not utilize it? Use it for something good.
Gotcha.
Anyhow.
And the other part goes back to the other thing too, is a fan or people that, follow that musician or artist. It's another way of going, hey, I'm into that too. And another way to connect. So it's like, if you don't ever have that, you don't, number one, seem like you're human, number one. And then number two, it's like, we obviously don't connect these, human beings either too.
Yeah. And I think at this point in time, like, it's impossible. There's a really short list of guys out there that are still sort of hanging on to the sort of like, ethos of this like rock star, like, unobtainable, you can't find them, no interaction kind of thing. Like, and there's something to be said about it. It's kind of cool, like, in a way, but like, we can't all be Axl Rose, who's like this unobtainable, like, you're not going to run into Axl Rose at like El Torito or is that even a restaurant anymore? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to run into him at Walmart, and get a selfie. Like, it's just not really going to happen. And that's, social media is kind of a little bit responsible for that. So why not, now that we've taken away the like sort of mystique, like, I'm a fucking dork, man. Like, I'm a total dork. I have toys, I collect records, I like dogs. Like, why?
I have my toys behind me.
Yeah, man. My Boglins and all that. Like, why act like you're too cool when you know that you're not? Like, as a kid, I loved that Kirk Hammett was like, here's all my toys, here's my comic book collection. So I think it's cool to have an element of humanity behind it, rather than like, my sunglasses on, don't make eye contact with them, all that shit. It's tired. It's not the 80s or the 70s anymore. We're all human beings. So
gotcha. Heck yeah, man. Well, that's why I appreciate it. Keeping it real.
Trying.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I'll let you get going. But I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me and just chat with us, stay in metal and support us.
Yeah. Good luck with the channel, and thanks for having me on the show, Chris. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And so, anything else you want to plug before we get going?
Check out my Patreon, I guess, patreon.com/AceVonJohnson. And more importantly, find an animal rescue near you. Foster, advocate, network, donate, any of that stuff, anything, even just sharing. If you're into cats or you're into raccoons or you're into snakes, whatever, find something in your area. Just even the slightest sharing something makes more of a difference than most people are aware. So give that a push.
Heck yeah, man. I can totally relate. Both my dogs are rescues, so yeah, have to do that, man. It's good stuff. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and thanks again. And we will talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Chris.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.